Okay, this is a special pre-video thing that I'm putting in here. Before I jump into the video, I wanted to actually talk to you about this. This is a piece of art that my cousin Cheryl, who I talk about quite a bit, from the Whole Bucket made because she found the cereal box and had to get it. So she actually did a live video making this piece of art for us. And she said, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but if you want it, it's yours. I actually was there for the live when she made this and threw some comments in. And I said, oh, I absolutely want this. This is my thumbnail for this video. And this is, like I said, something that was handmade by my cousin Cheryl. So I am going to send this to Kim from Teacher Loves Beauty because she also has some connection with my cousin Cheryl, and I had told her about this, so I promised that I would send this along to her. So this is one of those things that is going to be mailed off to my girl Kim. Hope y'all enjoy it. Cheryl, thank you so much for doing that. You have no idea how cool I really think that is. All right, now I'm going to jump into the actual video. All right, everybody, it is time for the finale for the Women Who Rock project. Before I get into it, I am going to ask you to please do all of the things. You know what they are. I ask you every video. I truly do appreciate when you guys give me those thumbs up and when you subscribe to my channel, leave me comments. I am going to warn you right now, this is going to be another episode where my music moment is much longer than my project, but it is well thought out and it will explain this. So, first thing I'm going to start with is what I had going on that was still left in this project. This is a project that was created by Kim from Teacher Loves Beauty, Cece from Mediva Next Door, and Ruth Foley. They did this in collab with the Fantastic Ladies group on Facebook. Everything is linked in the description box. So even though this project is ending, make sure you check out those ladies because there are other projects around that they do. All right, and they're all fabulous women too, just in case you didn't know that. I happen to really enjoy all of them. This is a project that they started on Women's Equality Day, which was August 26th of 2022, is ending on August 26th of 2023, obviously, which is hopefully when you're going to see this. Now, there were 20 women they picked. Some are musicians, some were just women in prominent spheres, and they did quotes, they did songs, they did all kinds of really cool things, gave us an idea for a prompt, and they were all very, very much empowering type of prompts, and we were to pick a product and set our own goals. We could do this in any style we wanted to. I don't actually remember. There's a playlist of this entire project that I have in my description, or that I'll have linked. Never mind. This sentence isn't coming out right. I have playlists of all of my projects, so there is an entire playlist for this project. I will try and remember to link it in the description box, but I don't always remember to do that. But if you go to playlist, you will find it. That's what I was trying to say. It just wasn't coming out. Now, the hashtag on this is Women Who Rock PP. So make sure you check out the other ladies because there should be a whole bunch of finales coming up. I have not updated in a little while because I was down to my last 3 items. So I'm going to let you know where I finished up with them. I was hoping that by giving myself a little bit more time that I would make more progress, and I'm going to tell you right now I really didn't, but that's okay. So the first thing that I had that was still in this project is Spice Girls, a product you really, really, really want to pan. For that, I have this little bitty, what's left of this. This is the NARS Velvet Gloss Lip Pencil in New Lover. And I have used this. I could have actually used it today, but I didn't. This is what it looks like. I have used this since the last update, so I have sharpened it, but not enough to make a really huge, significant line. Okay, so can you see my finish line is just barely under my last line? I don't know what happened, but that's where we are. So I didn't actually finish it off like I had hoped to, but I've got it in a pretty good position to maybe throw it into something else in the future to go ahead and get that done. The next thing I had in is Rachel Platten, and they picked a fight song from her. So this is a product you have to fight to open or fight to use up. For me, it's lip gloss, guys. I just do not use up lip gloss. This is a baby one that came in a set. It's the Rare Beauty gloss in Nearly Mauve. This only has 3 milliliters of product. You think I would have done better with this than I did. And I didn't. I mean, it kind of just is what it is. But I do have windowing. Okay, so it's not great. It's not super significant. I can see through it, and there's a gap in here. So I think most of what's left of the product is just clinging to the sides. I think I got somewhat close. So this is another thing that you might see come back again with like a finish goal, because I think that this could potentially eventually be a finished lip gloss for me. So when we started, that was 27.2 grams. We're ending at 26.3, which means I used just under a gram of product. Did I show you the swatch? Yeah, lip gloss is not something I go through. All right. Then finally, this one's a fail. This is a flat out fail. For Harriet Tubman, it's a black-owned makeup brand. I brought in a mented lip liner in the shade pink. And my goal was, of course, to finish this, which was ridiculous because me finishing a lip liner in 1 year is just not going to happen. I like to change them up. I like to use different ones. I'm going to give you a swatch of this. This actually isn't bad, but it also isn't for pink. It's almost a nude. So it's not necessarily the best of colors for me either. Yeah. Basically, the last line is where it ended. So, I mean, I used quite a bit from when I started, but honestly, that's just a learning experience that we do not put in lip liners to finish because it's just not going to happen unless I've already significantly dented them. So, what this means is I made good progress on 2 of the items. I made a dent in a third, and I actually met goals on 17. I'm going to give myself partial credit on the ones I didn't quite finish, but semi-successful. Let's just put, this is not an A project for me, okay? If Kim's going to grade me on this, she's going to have to like throw it in the comments and tell you exactly what kind of score she'd give me. I mean, at least I should get a C if nothing else. I don't know. I'll let her figure that out. But one of the things this project kind of did inspire was the music moment, because I had done music projects that first year that I was panning, and then when those ended, I was kind of lacking. So when I was talking about some of these things, I went into a little bit more depth, and I thought, you know what? My love for music shines through so much that I just wanted to start adding it. So these ladies are getting credit for encouraging me to make that a part of the videos that I do, which is a little bit of a different thing for a panning thing that I always include so much music. So that's going to bring us to our music moment for today. And this one, I think what's important to me, not only do I love the music from this person, but I admire this person so strongly. And the more that I went down the rabbit hole and started delving into things, the more I found to admire. So what I am giving you for the music moment is Dusty Springfield. Now, I have got all kinds of notes. So if you need to pause and grab a beverage, do it now. Okay? Otherwise, buckle in, follow the crazy train. We're going to take you through all kinds of weird trivia, facts, things that happened starting in the 60s, late 50s, early 60s. So Dusty Springfield is a name you may know. She actually was popular, especially in the 60s. Her real name is Mary Isabel Catherine Bernadette O'Brien. She was born April 16th, 1939. She did pass away March 2nd of 1999. So she passed away shortly before her 60th birthday. Now, she was born in London, so she was a British singer. The name Dusty came from the fact that she used to play football with the boys, so she was kind of a tomboy, so she came home like dirty and dusty. And then the name Springfield came from her brother. Her brother's real name was, I think it was Dion is what he went by, but it was Dionysius, I believe. I don't think I'm pronouncing that correctly. He adopted the name Tom, and he picked the name Springfield based on the fact that when he looked at a U.S. map, there was a Springfield everywhere. All the different states had Springfield, so he thought that was a super common American-sounding name. Okay, now at first, Dusty didn't adopt that name, but she does adopt it. I'll get to that. Okay, so she actually started singing at around, she started noticing what her voice could do around the age of 7. She said that she got attention for her voice, and because she was very insecure throughout her whole life, and there's some reasoning behind that, but the attention was something that she sought, and because she could get positive attention with her voice, singing became something that she did. I'm not going to give you the technical, she was a whatever type of voice. She could do so many things, and her voice was truly an instrument, and it was an incredibly talented instrument. She could work that instrument so well. So, her family, like I said, she has an older brother. Is from a very strict Catholic upbringing, and her father had fits of temper. Now, there is some speculation that there may have been mental illness in the family. Dusty was actually, according to some records, diagnosed at some point with bipolar disorder. Now, none of that was diagnosed back in the day. So one of the things that actually she picked up from her father was this habit of throwing food. Strange quirk. She talks about a couple stories of this happening, and other people that were close to her and around her talk about this, where it would almost be like a fit of temper. And sometimes she would just smash dishes, but sometimes she would actually just throw food. And she did it in public too. There's a story that she actually talked about, that she was in a restaurant. That was one of the things that she really loved doing. That was kind of an outlet for her, is she loved to go out and go to a restaurant with friends, have good conversation, have a nice meal. She was in a situation where she had a young new waiter, and so the head waiter was kind of hovering, and he was being really snooty and arrogant and demeaning, and really making this poor young new guy look bad and feel bad. So she ended up throwing, I think she said it was a mini quiche, I don't, but she threw food basically at the head waiter in this fancy restaurant. She said she was lucky to never get arrested for doing that, but that was something that she picked up from her childhood because her father did it, and it carried out throughout her life. It was just one of the ways that she released. But she was known for having an incredible sense of humor, being incredibly kind-hearted, having really deep, loyal friendships, but having so many personality facets that even the people that were closest to her didn't know all of the sides of her personality. So let's talk about what went on with her early musical career. So in 1958, she joined a girl group called the Lana Sisters. It was two other women. They adopted names with the last name Lana, or Lana. I'm not sure how it's actually pronounced. So Dusty was asked to join this group, and she did. And she adopted the name Shan, like I think short for Shannon Lana. And she stayed with them, I think, until about 1960, 1961. But this is where she went from being the glasses-wearing freckled redhead to developing the Dusty Springfield persona, which did take on a life of its own. But this is where she started with the dressing, the makeup, the hair, that kind of stuff. This is the origin of that. So after she leaves this group, when they dissolve, she joins her brother and another person under the name the Springfields. Okay, and like I've already explained where the name the Springfields came from, but she did join this group with her brother, another guy. The original member left and was replaced by someone else. They did have some recordings. They were together from 61 to 63. Their most famous song that I could find, although they did have a couple of hits, the most famous one is Silver Threads and Golden Needles. Now, this was billed as a kind of a British country music trio. If you listen to that song, there's a part where Dusty has a solo, and she took the lead on most things. But they were, kind of high energy, kind of country sounding. But there's a part where she has a solo in this that is so not country sounding. It is pure golden Dusty sounding. So that's the song that kind of sticks in my head from that time frame. What happened was they were a part of a pilot episode of Ready, Steady, Go. The deal with that is that the bands that were on that episode were going to be back on the show if it got picked up. Well, the band decided, literally they had a conversation. It's like, well, maybe we should break up. There was no animosity. There was no fighting. There was no nothing. They just kind of went, oh, okay, well, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's break up. So Dusty had stopped by, and the woman who eventually became her manager was kind of the one who was in charge of a lot of this. She stopped by to let him know that the Springfields weren't going to be able to be on the show because they weren't together anymore. And so it turned around where it happened where they were like, well, hey, you can have an opportunity to have a spot in the show. So she actually hosted several episodes of Ready, Steady, Go. And she was doing this while she was kind of getting her solo career started. It ended up where she was actually able, because of the way this was filmed, and this is going to show through all of her career, everything was really chaotic. There was no separation. There was no stage. The crowd was in with the acts. And the cameras were in, so people would bump into the cameramen while they were filming, just because it was all just this big open area. And so Dusty kind of thrived on that weird, chaotic sound or scene for everything she did throughout her career. And this kind of set the stage for it. One of the other things that happened is not only was she able to premiere some of her songs, and she was getting into British homes through the TV, through this show. So she was actually building a name for herself. She was starting her own solo career, premiering songs. She was also filling in when people didn't show up. So if somebody didn't make it, she would step in and sing their song. Talk about versatility. So that actually is what is the foundation, I think, for her solo career. I think this is a really significant piece because of how long she was doing this. So by 63, she had her first solo hit with the song, I Only Want to Be With You. And that is a song that she did perform on this show. Now, here's some of the other things that happened because of that exposure. So she developed a look, like I said, it became really solidified and she became known for it. And that's what this was an attempt at. And I'm going to try and explain it. It became known as the panda eyes. So it is literally just a whole lot of black. And then she did super, super thick false eyelashes. I have false eyelashes on. More power to all of you out there who do this on a regular basis for your videos or for everyday life or for fancy events. Because I swear I stuck myself in the eye. I had glue all over my eyelid. I am a mess. But I did put them on. I couldn't do lower ones. But it became something that... This is a Dusty thing again, too. She was incredibly short-sighted. She was very nearsighted. And so she was trying to model her look after, like, the 1962 French model look. Catherine Deneuve is one of the influences that's mentioned. And there was a really thick black. Well, she couldn't see. If she took her glasses off, she had to get so close to things. Like, throughout her career, she would request that her dressing rooms had 100-watt light bulbs and a really good mirror. She would actually leave like the star dressing room and go into like the dancers' dressing rooms if they had a better mirror and better lighting because she couldn't see. So this became basically, it was all her own. It was inspired by something, but because she couldn't see and kept screwing it up and kept having to add more and more and more, it became her signature look. And it is literally called the panda eye look. You can even find a tutorial on it out there. The other thing was the peroxide blonde hair. Now, my hair is pretty white, but to get it even this light took a lot of work, and I am going to have to go condition the crap out of this when I am done. I definitely just need to shower all of this off. I am so uncomfortable. But the bouffant hairstyle, the peroxide blonde hair, I tried. My hair is too curly. I couldn't quite get it, but I gave it an attempt. Okay, just don't look at the back part. Hey, I tried. Okay, I tried. So this was actually a look that she was known for, and she became an icon of what was considered the swinging 60s. Swinging at this point meant hip, cool, the scene, the whole thing. And she literally was one of the forerunners for this. She was also part of the first wave of the British invasion. We're talking with the Beatles, the Stones, the Kinks, all of these bands. There were some females. There were Cilla Black, Sandy Shaw, Lulu, Petula Clark, Dusty Springfield. I mean, these were the first British women kind of in the U.S. in that British invasion. Now, Dusty had a background of being exposed to all kinds of music. Gershwin as a child. She actually, there's videos of her singing like Irish folk ballads. She could kind of go all over. She did some jazzy stuff. She worked with a bunch of different people. She was not much of a writer. She does have some writing credit, but basically she said that the only time she was a writer was when it paid her. She was a singer. And her love for R&B, Motown music was so strong that she actually kind of emulated that sound. In, I want to say it was 1964? Yes. Okay, so in September of 1964, she did a Murray the K holiday show in the U.S. So she came over and did this show. And she was one of the few white singers that was on this bill. She had heard like the Exciters and the Shirelles and really loved that. So her sound kind of came like that. And a lot of people didn't realize she was white. We've talked about this before. Back in the day, this was a thing. I don't quite get it, but I didn't live through it. Okay, that's why I don't fully understand it. In theory, I get it. In reality, I don't understand it. But she just really didn't see things that way. So she was super excited. She's on this tour. She literally, from what they said, stayed on stage for almost the entire show of this every time because she was singing backup vocals for everybody else. She became great friends with Martha from Martha and the Vandellas and actually covered several of those songs. She loved this this genre and this music and this style so much that when she went back to England, she actually went back to the producers of Ready, Steady, Go and said, can we do a special Ready, Steady, Go and bring some of these acts over? Now, at this point, you remember British invasion, all these British acts are coming to America. There was not a lot of American acts going into Britain and making it big. What they ended up doing is they ended up doing a special. And it was in April of 1965. The special is called The Sounds of Motown Ready, Steady, Go Special. And she literally brought Motown into the homes of the British public this way. So she is credited by a lot of people for really opening up a lot of the British culture to that Motown sound. And some of her songs actually emulate some of that and emulate, there's one song that's cited as emulating like Phil Spector's Wall of Sound. So this is not the only thing she did where she was making a difference in the color issue that was going on in the world, not just the U.S., but the world. Because remember when integration happened, before that there was segregation in the U.S., it was a very, very big deal in the South. I don't know, like I said, I didn't live through it, so there's a lot of stuff. I mean, I've learned about it, I've seen a lot of things, but I don't get it. My mind doesn't work that way. So I don't know how hers worked, but one of the other things that happened in April of 64, she was on a tour and she ended up in apartheid South Africa. She was the first and only female, first female, only British person. I mean, this was a big deal. One of the things that she did is she actually put it in her contract that she wouldn't do segregated shows. And this, she got away with a few shows before the officials in South Africa figured out what was going on. And then she got in trouble. But she said that for her, and I'm going to misquote this because this is not, it's a paraphrase, okay? If somebody wanted to buy a ticket, they should have the right to do that and then the right to go to the show. So she didn't want to do these separate shows. Other acts did it and it would just like never, I mean, that was the policy, so that's what they did. She didn't. A few of them went off, the officials caught on, they deported her. And so in the airport, she had a band called the Echoes at that point. She refused to get on the plane until the entire band was on the plane because she was afraid of what was going to happen to them, that they were going to be held back, that they weren't going to make it back, whatever. So she actually kind of caused a fuss. And because she was at that point, I mean, her shows were incredibly well received. She was very popular. They couldn't do much to her in public. So the whole band got on. They blocked off all of first class for her. They got the whole band on. They got her on. They kicked her out of the country and sent her back to the UK. She never got to finish her tour. She lost out on all of the money. But she always said it had nothing to do with politics. It literally was just about the music because it was a sound she loved, a style she loved. And it was something that she was falling into that style. So if other people wanted to hear it and wanted to be there for those shows, she didn't care what color they were. It was always about the music. That's a huge thing. This is 1964 in apartheid South Africa. And this was not political. Now, when she got back to the UK, she started getting recognition and honors for doing this as a political act, which she flat out denied. It was never political. Yes, it's wrong. Yes, she understood that. And great that she was being recognized as doing something to actually like cause a wave, make ripples, maybe change something eventually down the road, or maybe be like a foundation for changing something. And you all know what has happened since then and how big of an issue that became. So this was going on before it was ever something that was like a world issue where they were looking in on it. Now, those are the kinds of things for which I admire her. The fact that I don't know if she saw color. I really don't. And I understand that because I don't always see things or recognize things that way myself. And I know it sounds really stupid and it sounds ignorant, and I'm not trying to come from a place of white privilege. I'm trying to say that for me, I see a person. That is, and I understand that there are issues beyond that. But now I'm talking also in music, okay? So for me, I've never cared. And so, of course, she ended up getting that blue-eyed soul thing again. One of her dearest friends was a woman named Madeline Bell. And she was a gospel singer originally. She and Dusty ran into each other somewhere. We're so excited, like in a hallway. And both kind of like started blushing and we're so excited to meet each other. Madeline Bell is a woman of color. So it was one of those, hey, do you want to sing backup for me? No, Dusty Springfield could not read music. Neither could Madeline Bell. All of these people that Dusty came across and became part of her life and became very important to her, there was this whole group of women that they were singing backup on each other's albums because they were all under the same label. They were recording at the same studio. None of them could read music. That made it a little difficult. Dusty's perspective on her own vocal was that she was an instrument. She was part of an orchestra. If you listen to her stuff, there's strings, there's trumpets, there's cellos, there's orchestral music going on here for someone who was a pop singer. But she always was trying to get the musicians who were British studio musicians to kind of play a little bit more like the American ones. And that became problematic because she couldn't read music, so she couldn't exactly explain it to them very well. The whole chaotic thing, she actually was going in and doing a lot of producing on her own things because she knew how she wanted something to sound. In her head, it was a certain way, and she was trying to get it that way, and she couldn't quite get it in the studio. A lot of times she had struggles with getting the musicians. She became known as difficult. She became known as a diva. It wasn't that. I think there was a lack of ability to communicate what she was hearing in a musical way to people who were playing. She was a perfectionist. Very strict upbringing, getting positive recognition for her voice. You see how this is kind of influencing things here. One of the things that she is known for is actually recording her vocals in the studio bathroom because it had tiles, so it had a better echo. That was also something no one else was doing. But now back to Madeline Bell. One of the things in an interview that she had said was people always refer to Dusty saying, oh, she was a white soul singer. Singers really, if you've got soul, you don't necessarily need a color. That's a direct quote. And that's from someone of color. I think I'm trying to not offend people of color because I understand there are struggles that I will never get. So I am not in any way denigrating any of that, trying to sweep it under the rug or belittle it. I'm trying to say that even when color was a big issue, there were times where the people that were living these lives said, no, the color isn't the thing that's important here. The music is. And that is like a huge thing to me. It bothers me that music was separated by color because of my love of music and because, like I've always said, it feeds my soul. So that hurts me. So that's why I'm emphasizing this, because I think this is kind of a big deal, because this was when it was a huge, huge issue for everybody, especially like in the US. And I think there were issues in the UK also, and there still are. Okay. Before I get on a political thing, because that's not where I want to be with this, I just want to say that I am trying to handle this realistically, but also sensitively. So I am begging indulgence and begging forgiveness for my ignorance on some of these issues. Okay, I am just reporting the things that I have discovered. Anyway, now, beyond all of this, a couple years down the road, Dusty was actually given the opportunity to do TV shows. In the US, we had like the Sonny and Cher show. Who else? And that's the only one I'm thinking of off the top of my head. But musicians would get these variety shows, essentially. So in Britain, Dusty Springfield got these musical variety shows that she got to do. And I'm going to give you what they were because, quite frankly, it kind of blows my mind what she got to do. In 65, Ready, Steady, Go did that Motown special. 66 to 67, there were 2 seasons of a show called Dusty. There were 6 episodes each of that, and they were all musical variety shows. That then led into 68. The show was called It Must Be Dusty, and this had 8 weekly episodes, which also led to a Christmas special called All Kinds of Music. In 69, there was a show called Decidedly Dusty, which had 8 weekly episodes. If you go look these up, you can look up all of the musical acts that were the guests for each of these shows. The people that she sang with, had performed, and spotlighted, essentially. And then you can find clips of her singing. I mean, even with like Jimi Hendrix, there was a thing that she did in one of these with the Jimi Hendrix Experience, and there is no footage of some of these shows that really exist anymore. So there's a very weird video that is not in good shape of what is still existing of the footage because these weren't preserved. So unfortunately, that is some serious history loss, but her and Jimi Hendrix singing together is kind of cool. If you find it, go listen to it. All right. So, what else did I want to tell you about her? All right. Like I said, I'm going on and on. This is more about Dusty than it is about the project, but I think that Dusty is definitely the capper for the finale of this because I think this woman rocked hardcore. So because of all of the things that she had done, there's one other issue that I need to touch on, and this is another one I don't like to touch on because to me it doesn't change anything about how I see people. That is the best way that I can say that, because this is another problematic issue where people are fighting for rights. Dusty Springfield kept her personal life very, very personal. She was in serious relationships. Sometimes they were considered domestic partnerships. In 1970, someone flat out came out and said, oh, okay, well, you're a lesbian. And she actually kind of responded with, well, people have always questioned my sexuality, have always told me what I am. So now somebody, or always questioned what I am. So now somebody flat out said it. So maybe I can get used to the idea. There was a point where, and I only heard this once, I can't find any record of it. She had made a comment in an interview about being engaged to like a man. She never was married. She never had any children. She actually left the UK and lived in the United States, in California, in like Los Angeles for several years because she was so concerned of the backlash if her sexuality became a public thing, because that did destroy careers back in the day. It was hidden. There were publicity things that were set up by management labels to hide this for actors, musicians. This is not uncommon knowledge, people. You guys know this kind of stuff went on. She struggled with it, plus having the Catholic background. So she always kind of struggled with that identity and how she felt. And she at one point said that the greatest issue for her with being with a man was that she was afraid of loving a man. So she didn't see herself as only being attracted to women. She saw that there was a stepping stone in the way because she was attracted to men in some ways also. I honestly think that if she were alive today and this was something she was exploring, she may actually be more pansexual. That's just a speculation on my part from the things that she herself has said. Now, her relationships that lasted in any way or shape or form were with women. She was married, not in a legal ceremony, to a woman that it ended really badly. So her career is flagging. She's not selling much. She had this unfortunate situation of she would have hits in the U.S. when she was in England, and then when she was having hits in England, she'd be over in the U.S., and it really was not helping her maintain traction. Things were changing sound-wise. She became somewhat reclusive. She was scared of these things coming out. She never wanted to do residencies. She wanted to go and be different places, and she would literally pack up and move. So she did emigrate to the U.S. for quite some time. She did eventually go back to England, and that is where she did pass away. She lived the remainder of her life there. But during this period when things were going bad, she was struggling a lot with not only her bipolar, which was not helping, but then I think she was struggling with depression. And I think she was struggling to find her way and find like a career path that would keep her going, because she always said that she explored it, and the only thing that she could do that would satisfy her as far as self-fulfillment was to sing. She sang for tons of people in backing vocals. It was not about spotlight for her. It literally was about being able to sing. So she did do that kind of stuff even when she wasn't putting out her own albums or wasn't necessarily recording under her own name. And she actually did backup under a pseudonym because she didn't want credit for it. She didn't want someone going, oh, that's a Dusty Springfield thing. That was what she wanted. She came into prominence in the 80s with the Pet Shop Boys. She was concerned about doing a song with them, and it was basically like, these guys are coming to her and they want her. If this doesn't go well, it's kind of on them. And Neil Tennant was incredibly fond of her. The song that they did actually became a hit, and it brought some prominence back to her career. It allowed her to do some more recording. It was on both the Pet Shop Boys and Dusty Springfield's discographies. So this song was a really good, like, revival song for her career. I'm going to give you songs that I'm going to link below because, of course, I'm going to because I'm me. But I want to tell you about the recognition that she received for her life of music. So in 1966, she was voted Best International Vocalist for Melody Maker. The New Musical Express did these reader polls, and she was the first British singer to become the top female singer, and that was in 1965. She won it again in 66, 67, and 69. She also got the most votes in the British singer category overall from 64 to 66. That's all just from this one thing from this period of time where she was literally the top dog. Okay, she was voted in the top 25 female artists by Mojo magazine in May of 1999, Q magazine in January of 2022, the VH1 channel in August of 2007. She was actually awarded the Order of the British Empire in March of 1999. Now, at this point, she had had breast cancer. She had done the treatment. It was in remission. When it came back hard. So the Crown allowed her manager to pick up her award and bring it to her, and then it was presented to her while she was in the hospital. So she actually did get the award in January because of the medical condition. That was why they made an exception. It happened that she died on the day that she would have otherwise received the award. So luckily the Crown was kind enough to actually make sure that she got it before she died, because it was not until after her death in 1999 that she was inducted into the U.S. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Elton John is quoted as saying she is the best female singer of all time. And then she was inducted into the UK Music Hall of Fame in 2006. All right, so what I want you to remember is that as a person, she was in a lot of ways still Mary O'Brien. Dusty Springfield was a persona. It was part of her, yes, but it was something that she created. And it was something that had a life of its own in a lot of ways. But she did a lot of good things with that. It gave her clout. It gave her a voice. It gave her power. And she used that for good, even more widespread than what she ever intended. Okay? And I think that that is another reason to admire her, because she did these things for somewhat selfish reasons. She enjoyed the music. She wanted to share it. That's not selfless. But advocating as much as she did for all people to be able to share music was selfless. And I think for that, she is a woman who rocks and a woman who definitely needs to be admired. All right, so what I'm going to give you, holy crap, I'm talking a lot. I'm going to give you You Don't Have to Say You Love Me, which is her #1 single, and I think it's her only #1 single. It sold over 1 million copies from 1966. I am going to link her breakout hit, I Only Want to Be With You, from 1963. One of my favorite and one of the most dramatic songs is 1968's I Close My Eyes and Count to 10. The Pet Shop Boys project that she did in 1987 is going to be What Have I Done to Deserve This? You're going to find that in the description box. And then the song that, although it's listed in her best songs, was not a chart song, but is cited by all of her closest friends as their favorite song, is the song Going Back from 1966. And then the first song I ever knew by Dusty, Son of a Preacher Man, from 1968. This is a song that was originally written for Aretha, and it was in the movie Pulp Fiction. Aretha did do a version of this. Dusty was so frustrated with herself because she loved Aretha so much and thought that the woman had such talent with her phrasing that she actually, when she performed this live, did it with Aretha's phrasing instead of her original recording phrasing. But I will get you that all down in the description box. This is a woman who had 21 studio albums, multiple TV shows, 69 singles. If you find other stuff out there, if there's something else that is your favorite, if you have more to add to the Dusty stories, I want it all in the comments section. Thank you for giving me this platform to do this, because I think this, since this project isn't coming back next year, is a perfect way for me to thank Kim, Ruth, and Cece for bringing this project to life. I think this is another person that definitely deserves to be honored. And I want to thank all of you for indulging me when I do go off and give you a half an hour history lesson on a musician. Thank you for spending your time with me. Make sure you check out the description box. It is chock full of goodies for you. I hope you enjoy all of them. Okay, until next time, everybody, I'm going to shut up. See ya. Bye.